and Jeff Imada, who he did The Crow, and even Big Trouble in Little China, one of my favorite 80s films. He's in it, you know. Remember Jack Burton in the airport when the Lords of Death punks, the guy that's spinning all the sort of extendable baton and knife, and like Jack Burton's moving back on his ass on the floor. That's Jeff Imada. And Blade, the first Blade film, that was Jeff doing the choreography. He's in it. So
amazing stuff.
Yeah, he trained Brandon Lee for a while. Like, Jeff is like a real legend with great lineage. So you can imagine it's like, oh my God, this dude, you know, I'm getting to train under him and stuff.
Did you have any or who were your favorite martial artists kind of growing up? I mean, we just touched on Brandon Lee. Did you grow up kind of watching Bruce Lee or any of the legends?
Completely. Or by that point, I mean, I'm telling you, I was obsessed with martial art. I lived martial arts and tricking, doing crazy acrobatic stuff, you know, like, you know, video game type stuff. I really dedicated myself. So Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, Yun Biao, all the Hong Kong things, Chu Man Chuk, Donnie Yen, you name it. You name it. I was into it. You know, I mean, I remember I got, for my 6th or 7th birthday, I got Dragons Forever on VHS from my cousin. Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, Yun Biao, Benny the Jet is in there. Still today, probably one of my favorite Jackie film.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the influences were very, very strong. So I knew who was who in the sort of action world, you know.
So you mentioned you know, one of your favorites and one of the names, Van Damme, and I'm going to ask you to kind of wear your you know, your Joey fan hat. You know, what's your favorite Van Damme movie? Yeah.
Kickboxer holds a very special place in my heart. Kickboxer is a better movie than Bloodsport. Bloodsport is still amazing for a number of reasons, but Kickboxer, I think, is a superior composed movie.
Amazing.
If you just, yeah.
Tong Po and
yeah, I mean, there's so many things to love. The music in Kickboxer is just, you get goosebumps when you hear it now. The training music and the sort of jungle location of it was called. What's so nice, you know, and you recognize this being an actor. Those two films, I know he had done Black Eagle with Sho Kosugi and No Retreat, No Surrender, little parts, but Bloodsport and Kickboxer were the first starring vehicles for Van Damme. And when you see an actor who is hungry, Van Damme was hungry. So he was putting his all into those films. He left it all on celluloid. And you often get some of the best work of an actor when they're hungry before they're a bona fide star. They're not wealthy, they're not comfortable. This whole dream can be snatched away from them in an instant. And you can see almost this vulnerability and this desperation. And it's a very interesting concept of, when you think of the archetypal movie star that has specific traits and isms that you think that's their signature style, that performance style that makes them them. It takes these actors 2, 3, maybe 4 films to find out what that magic is. Then it's a problem because they then become a prisoner of their own construct. They're like, oh, the fans liked it when I did this. The fans really responded when I said that. So now I'm almost scared now to be sailing without a map. Yeah. Now I have these set waypoints that I almost have to hit. You can see it with Arnold. When he said, I'll be back in Terminator, shit, people love it when I say a one-liner.
Yeah.
I'm gonna now be a one-liners guy, and you see how these things become crystallized, and sometimes these actors cannot escape them then. And Van Damme, you can see the birth of where his signature style is, but there's still a vulnerability and a rawness and a lack of a sense of self. You're not self-aware of this is what my screen persona is. So as a result, I think they're more endearing, those performances.
Why do you think as fans we're so drawn to this martial arts kind of, genre? I mean, I think it really took off, and it started kind of late 60s, and then 70s was just huge, with martial arts and kung fu. And I mean, still to this day, I mean, it's one of the most popular categories or genres in a movie. Why do you think we're so drawn to? Do fans just enjoy seeing guys get their ass kicked, or why do you think we're so drawn to these martial arts stars?
I think it's like watching ballet. It's aspirational to see one man taking on many people.
Yeah.
So on a very basic level, we all want to be tough. We all want to be able to defend ourselves and to defeat the bad guy, defeat the bully. So you are channeling these martial arts on-screen stars represent something you want. Now, that's a very interesting thing. What do people want in life? What does the average human being out there desire that they don't have? If you can put that, if you can embody that in a leading character on screen, you're going to have captivated audience, because it's like a drug, isn't it? It's why do people take drugs? Because it makes you feel good. Probably, and the people that are more drawn to taking drugs are people that don't feel that good without the drug. Someone that is innately very happy and very content, you'll probably find doesn't have that many vices in life, because they get everything they need for their dopamine and serotonin release, your sort of neurotransmitter reward scheme is kind of self-produced. But when you don't have that, you seek external sources for that. And I think certain performers become like a drug, because they just they make you feel and represent something very enticing, very sexy, very attractive. And you feel that some of that's going to rub off on you if you indulge in this thing for long enough,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those, and I think you touched on it perfectly. I think there's a little bit of all of us where we want to be able to take on, multiple people, and be able to do it, like watching, the Karate Kid. You see all these moves that they're doing, and you're like, man, I can do that too. I want to do the crane kick. And yeah, it's kind of that inner voice inside of us that tells us I can. There's
Yeah.
moves that you're seeing now that we never saw back in the 70s and the 80s. Guys are in better shape. They're doing more acrobatics versus just doing a straight kick. There's flips, that you know what I mean. And
Yeah, and things go in cycles, things come around. I mean, I think it's really interesting to look at different martial arts styles and think, what was their USP? What was the new thing they brought to the table? Let's start the timeline. Shaw Brothers, 60s, 70s martial arts films, shot wide. You got to think like Peking opera is where the basis of all the performers came from doing these Shaw Brothers productions. So it was very circus-esque. And they would shoot it like a play, that very wide profile. You didn't have that many down the line, over the shoulder type angles. It was very much two people fighting like this, rather than, rotational axes of shooting. Long sequences. The problem when you watch those films, it feels like they're very skilled performers, but no one has that much power, because it takes about 50 moves thrown before you've vanquished your opponent. Bruce Lee enters the scene and one hit and the person's gone. And you're saying like, geez, this guy's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
He's ripped, he's topless, he's sweating, he looks like a kind of jungle cat. Bruce Lee brought a kind of presence and intensity, something that was alive, that you couldn't sort of bottle. You know, Bruce Lee, kind of his charisma. You look at the Shaw Brothers type films, there's very little charisma. The performance style is very dry and a bit drone-like, whereas Bruce Lee was an individual that broke boundaries. Whether you were white, black, you know, Asian, Bruce Lee was a sex symbol. He was the first Asian sex symbol. Everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee, walk like him, even the way he would chew, his swag. You think Bruce Lee like was swagging out long before that was a thing, you know? So Bruce Lee brought that. Jackie Chan came along and brought kung fu comedy in, you know? A guy that seemed vulnerable rather than Jackie Chan appearing invincible like Bruce Lee often would. He would get hurt, you know, accidentally, you know, punch someone, it would hurt, and mixed in with the acrobatic style, he had his thing. As Van Damme said, you know, he was the first person. I am the first to make martial arts sexy, you know? And that's what he did. With his ballet background, beautiful lines and form, toes pointed, very nice lines, great physique, pretty boy face. Van Damme, you just loved watching his body in motion. He was just a beautiful thing to look. And that's a really interesting thing. He made martial arts sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Particularly to a West, because it's packaged in a Caucasian man. He's really tapping into Western and at the time 80s standards of beauty and sex appeal. He really cornered that very well. So it goes on and on and on. But yeah, it's really interesting to think what made this person stand out.
Yeah, and another martial artist that I wanted to mention, and just this kind of reminded me when you mentioned Deadpool. This guy, you can, in a sense, you can call him the original Deadpool because he was the one doing all the stunts in Wolverine, the original Wolverine, Scott Adkins. And you guys did, I think it was the Green Street series. It was the third, Never Back Down. Yeah, right, that one. And I love Scott Adkins. I was so happy to see him and Van Damme kind of team up in the Expendables. Thought that was a perfect matchup because, you know, for us, you know, we're used to, you know, seeing these guys as good guys and then kind of seeing them, you know, both be the villain. What was it like working with Scott Adkins?
Scott has been a good friend of mine for 15 years. And he has his own show that I was on recently called The Art of Action, which is worth any Scott Adkins fans out there. Go check that episode out with.
I love watching it. I saw it too.
Yeah, very good show. So Scott is someone who is just a powerhouse, man. I mean, he really lit a fire under my ass because I was training, particularly when Undisputed 2 came out. It was just like, oh my God, this guy is just on another level. Not just the moves, his basic skills, his boxing, his basic kicks, his tricking kicks and flips, but his physique. You're just like, this guy's the total package, and he's an absolute, his intensity, his screen presence and sort of intimidation factor on screen is just. So at the time, it's like, well, this guy is now my biggest rival. This guy has just set a bar as a contemporary new school action actor. And I'm just like, thank goodness, you know, we became friends. We can't beat them, join them, you know, as they say. And yeah, I remember he started coming to train at the gymnastics place. So like a lot of us in the action industry go to adult gymnastics classes. There'll be proper gymnastics gymnasiums that in the evenings have like 2-hour slots for adult, either ex-gymnasts who are now adults, to come and train. You get break dancers, stunt guys, whatever, come, and there's often a set class and then the ability to do your own thing. Use the tumble track, the foam pit, the sprung floor. So in any given city, there's going to be a number of key adult gymnastics places where anyone kind of in the industry goes. So once in a while, you're going to see some big action movie guy come in and you're like, oh, it's so-and-so, you know? And I remember the first time Scott came to Hendon Gymnastics, and everyone, there was this big buzz and everyone, and I just started getting into acting. I'd done Batman Begins. I'd done an episode of a big TV show here in the UK, and I was like, oh my God, it's Scott. And I'm like, I want to work with this guy. I want to be this guy's peer. So I don't want to meet him as a fanboy, although I am a fan, a huge fan of his work. I don't want that, because first meetings count for a lot. It's the same thing on Batman Begins. A load of my fellow ninjas were going up and sort of trying to talk to Christian Bale just for the sake of saying, yeah, I spoke to Christian Bale, when they were probably distracting him from his focus. I just thought, I'm not even going to speak to this guy. I'm not going to go near him. I'm not going to, because I want to meet Christian Bale one day as a peer, as actor and actor on a film, not as like stunt extra and star. Do you see what I mean? Because then that cements this kind of huge chasm. So with Scott, I was like, look, I'm just going to do my training, do my own thing. Hopefully a scenario will come where we just organically speak, not because I've gone over to sort of kiss the ring, you know? And that's what happened. I think there was a certain move, because I did capoeira for years. He was like, I want to learn some of that stuff, because there was a film Scott was going to do with Isaac Florentine called Capoeira. And I think that was one of the first times he came over and was like, could you show me that again? Then we introduced each other and spoke. And eventually, after like our third, fourth meeting, I said, oh, by the way, Scott, I'm an actor as well. He's like, oh, really? What have you done? I told him a bit. And I said that, look, I'm a fan of your work, man. You're super impressive. And then we exchanged numbers, and I remember he invited me to his 30th birthday. And then not that long after, I got Bourne. Yeah. So when I landed Bourne and got the desk role, I remember I called Scott and I was like, you're not going to believe it. I've just landed, you know, role of a life. I said, but there's another Blackbriar agent. Paz, call your agent, try and get in this gig. That obviously went to Edgar Ramirez, but Scott did get a role as one of the CIA agents in the Madrid part of the film. So he did get on there, and that was cool, and we've been close ever since. So Green Street was an opportunity. That film was super low budget and super ambitious, right? Because it's these kind of 5-on-5 fights. I think every fight there's 10 people fighting, and there's about 12 of those fights, and then various other fights. So I came on board to act in it as one of the support leads, and then I did all the action. I choreographed all the fights and got most of the guys in, most of the hordes of people you see fighting in that film. I got them in to work for, you know, little or nothing, you know, for the experience. There's only so many times you can use a favor like that. But for a lot of people, that was their route into the industry. There are some people who are working quite a lot in the sort of action movie side as actors or stunt guys, and that was their first gig that I got them, you know. So I think when you're starting out doing the odd project for free, there's no shame in that. I think we all do it. You just need the experience and to make the contacts and stuff. But it was cool to be acting with Scott, working with Scott, and doing action. But it was a stressful shoot because it was short, very little prep, very little money. But you know,
do you think we'll see you guys together soon? Any upcoming projects?
I keep saying to Scott, I mean, we always keep each other abreast of projects we're doing or opportunities and stuff. That's cool. We very much are sort of supportive of each other's careers. And Scott has, like, Accident Man, he offered me a role in that, but I was like, Scott, I'm super flattered, but when we work together next, it has to be the right project. I don't want to like spunk that opportunity away on a project that is not deserving of the two of us hopefully making magic on screen together. So I'm kind of like, Scott, let's hold out for a project with a budget, a decent budget that's going to get the right showcase, you know?
Yeah.
Because doing a straight to DVD or one of these DTV things, let's wait till there's a Netflix original that one of us is doing that we can bring the other in on, that's going to have a massive audience, good focus, and the budget and the time to do like a legacy project. If I work with Scott, I don't want it to be, oh, that was like a cheap film. It's a shame it wasn't that good. We've done Green Street. It was, I think, a big achievement for, you know, that film had a budget of 250K.
Wow. That's nothing.
Nothing. When you think one episode of Westworld costs $10 million, it puts it into perspective, right? So you know, I hope we do get to work together before we're too old and broken, you know. But